In our collective awakening, we must recognize that the seeds of mass psychosis lie dormant in each of us. It's born out of our shared fear and anxiety, an emotional whirlwind that distorts our reality and cloaks us in the veil of delusion. But we're not destined to succumb to this collective madness. Instead, we can rise, transforming our fears into action, our anxieties into an understanding, and our individual resilience into a shared resistance. In combating the psychic epidemic, the first step is recognition. Let's admit that we, as a society, are vulnerable to forces of manipulation. It's our responsibility to dissect and scrutinize the information we're fed. The screens that surround us, they're tools, not masters. They should enlighten us, not delude us. We must question, seek the truth, and deny the narratives that play on our fears. Then comes the step of resilience. The resilience of the human spirit, of our collective consciousness, can act as a powerful antidote to the flood of negativity. We must foster an environment of critical thinking, encourage open dialogues, cherish our shared humanity, and above all, rekindle our connections with each other. Isolation feeds delusion, but unity dispels it. In the face of rising totalitarianism, a system that preys on our vulnerabilities and thrives on our obedience, our shared resilience can be a beacon of defiance. Let's refuse to be molded into subservience. Let's not allow our individualities to be suppressed. In place of fear, let's sow seeds of courage. In place of apathy, let's foster a spirit of active resistance. In the face of propaganda, let's be purveyors of truth. The ruling elite can hold their godlike status only as long as we surrender our power. So let's reclaim our power. Let's refuse to be pawns in a game that thrives on our regression. Yet in this fight against mass psychosis, remember that ridicule and resistance alone aren't sufficient. Humor and laughter, the simplest expressions of our shared humanity, can act as powerful weapons against the gravitas of totalitarianism. The ruling elite, shrouded in their self-created godlike image, crumble when we laugh at their fallacies. Meanwhile, let's create parallel structures, alternate systems that uphold our values and respect our shared humanity. In the face of social ruin, these structures can provide the blueprint for a world built on respect, understanding, and mutual cooperation. Collective action is vital. Totalitarianism, the highest form of mass psychosis, can be countered not by isolated acts of defiance, but by collective resistance. The power of the many overshadows the might of the few. We stand at a crossroads, my fellow listeners, a pivotal moment in our shared history. The path we choose will define not just us, but generations to come. So let's choose wisely. Let's choose resilience over fear, unity over isolation, and freedom over obedience. Together we can weather the storm of mass psychosis and emerge stronger, united, and free. No, I'm not talking about taking to the streets with pitchforks and torches like some sort of Frankenstein mob out of an old Hollywood flick. Nor am I suggesting we go on a psychedelic trip, dancing to the tunes of the Grateful Dead in hopes of finding enlightenment in a tie-dyed t-shirt. And while resilience might sound like something out of a Rocky Balboa speech, I assure you it's much more than just the eye of the tiger. Just like the protagonist in a well-woven thriller, we must face the approaching storm head-on, with courage, wisdom, and a sense of humor. Think of it as our own heroic journey, much like the characters we love in our favorite Western pop culture tales. With this resilient spirit, let's turn the page, shall we? As we delve deeper into this exploration of mass psychosis, it is essential to acknowledge that these collective descents into delusion can take myriad forms, shaping and shaped by the historical and cultural fabric of societies. Today, my fellow listeners, our greatest adversary appears to be the mass psychosis of totalitarianism. In the grasp of totalitarianism, society is cleaved in two, divided into rulers and ruled, each undergoing a metamorphosis of a sinister nature. The rulers ascend, adopting a near godlike status, a position utterly discordant with our human reality, our inherent imperfections, and the humbling truth that power has the ability to corrupt. On the flip side, the masses descend into a childlike dependency, succumbing to the ruling elites, surrendering their individual liberties. In the words of Hannah Arendt, a scholar of great insight, totalitarianism is an attempt at a transformation of human nature itself. But in this transformation, sanity is traded for delusion, healthy minds turned into sick minds. Reflect on this. Our societies, the ones we call home, are teetering on the edge of a precipice, threatened by a wave of collective regression, spurred by manipulative forces that seek to control and dominate. The signs are everywhere. The erosion of individual human rights, the objectification of the masses, the rampant rise of power-hungry leaders, This, my friends, is the burgeoning reality of a modern totalitarian state. However, remember this: these ruling elites are not omniscient. They are susceptible to the same human frailties that we are. They too can become deluded, lost in the illusion that they possess the wisdom, the knowledge, and the right to govern our lives from the top down. But these delusions of grandeur are just the initial spark. They pave the way for an even more dangerous phenomenon: the induction of a mass psychosis among the people they rule, manipulating collective feelings, triggering an onslaught of psychological assaults, a menticide if you will, a deliberate killing of the mind. This process begins with the sowing of fear. Remember, fear primes us for manipulation, making us susceptible to losing touch with reality. The ruling class, with their calculated waves of terror, can further break down the minds of the masses. They use propaganda to spread misinformation, sow confusion, and manipulate our perceptions of the threats we face. In the face of such an onslaught, our defense mechanisms falter. We search for logic, for reason amidst the barrage of contradictory reports and blatant lies. But the scale tips in favor of the illogical, the irrational, and slowly but surely, we descend into the realm of delusions. Consider the role modern technology plays in this process. Smartphones, social media, the internet. These tools, designed for connection, have become channels for mass manipulation. We voluntarily subject ourselves to a constant barrage of information, stimuli that overload our senses, preventing us from taking a moment to reflect, to question the world around us. The final piece of this dystopian puzzle is isolation. By disrupting normal social interactions, the ruling elite further heighten our vulnerability, conditioning us to accept the delusions they propagate. But all is not lost. We still hold the power to resist, to reclaim our minds and our freedom. As we navigate this tumultuous era, let's choose enlightenment over ignorance, unity over isolation, resilience over fear. Let's use humor to puncture the illusion of the godlike status of the rulers, and take collective action towards reclaiming our freedom. Picture us as the jovial jesters in the king's court, humor as our dagger, daring to mock the pompous king and his courtiers. We know that laughter, a shared joke, can act as a powerful tool to reveal the absurdities of power. It's our mash in the face of totalitarianism, our Saturday Night Live against an unfunny reality. In the face of stagnation, let's foster creativity. In the face of destruction, let's champion life. Let's not just prevent totalitarianism, but reverse it. It's a challenge, yes, but it's one we must undertake, for ourselves and for the generations to come. As we pivot in this saga, let's delve into a darker corner of our narrative. As we proceed on this journey of understanding, let's explore how isolation deepens the impact of mass psychosis. Isolation, my friends, severs the life-giving ties we share with friends, family, and colleagues. It distances us from positive examples, individuals who, with clear vision, see through the illusions spun by the elite. Isolation is the villain of our story, much like the nefarious masterminds in a suspenseful thriller, working behind the scenes, bending reality to its will. It's the force that converts us into solitary spectators of a distorted reality show, unable to change the channel. Isolation also makes us more susceptible to new patterns of thought and behavior. It's akin to the process that animal trainers use. They isolate their subjects, exposing them repetitively to stimuli in order to tame them. The same tactic, unfortunately, is employed by totalitarians. By keeping us isolated, they quicken the pace at which we are conditioned into their politically distorted reality. Enveloped by waves of terror, alone and confused, societies under attack find themselves teetering on the brink of a hopeless state. The ceaseless stream of propaganda seizes rational minds, turning them into playgrounds for irrational thoughts and fears. Amidst this chaos, order appears a distant dream. But, my friends, it's in these moments of seeming despair that the would-be totalitarians step in, promising a return to order. However, the price for this illusion of order is steep. The masses must relinquish their freedom and cede control of their lives to the elite. They must let go of their individuality, their self-reliance, and succumb to the rule of obedience. Thus begins the descent into the depths of the delusion of totalitarianism. Totalitarian societies represent collective psychoses. Reason and common decency crumble under the weight of pervasive terror. Society turns on itself, tearing itself apart under the watchful eyes of the ruling authorities. Yet let us not be fooled. The order of a totalitarian world is a pathological order. By enforcing blind obedience and rigid conformity, Totalitarianism strips the world of spontaneity and creativity, leading to stagnation, destruction, and mass suffering. So what can we do to prevent this descent into totalitarianism? How can we reverse its effects if we find our societies already caught in its insidious grasp? There is no magic potion, no one-size-fits-all solution. However, there are steps we can take, actions we can initiate. First, we need to restore order to our minds. We need to live in a way that inspires others, showing them that it is possible to escape the grip of collective psychosis. We need to spread information that challenges the propaganda of the ruling elite, to use humor to delegitimize them. We must build parallel structures, organizations, and institutions that operate within the physical space of totalitarian societies, but stand morally separate from them. Consider us akin to the Rebel Alliance in Star Wars, valiantly working under the radar, breaking through the imposing Death Star of totalitarianism with the power of truth, wit, and collective action. Let us leverage the spirit of satire and parody, much like The Daily Show, to expose the ludicrousness of the self-proclaimed emperors and show them that they have no clothes. Above all, we need to act. We need to push back against the rising tide of totalitarianism, even in the face of immense challenges. Remember the words of Thomas Paine. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. The path ahead may be difficult, but it is not insurmountable. We have the power to change course, to reclaim our freedom and our sanity. Let us use it. As we begin the next chapter in our struggle against totalitarianism, let's recall a simple truth, my friends. Truth is more powerful than any fabricated tales or manipulative narratives spun by those seeking to control us. The illusion of power these would-be totalitarians wield depends greatly on their ability to filter information and suppress the truth. Let's strive to be conduits of information that question their narratives and shed light on the stark reality. Another powerful weapon we can wield against them is humor. Remember that humor is a leveler, a powerful antidote to self-importance and grandiosity. The aspirant dictators in our midst are almost incapable of humor. If we can treat them with ridicule, if we can laugh at them, they will begin to crumble. A further step we can take is the construction of what Václav Havel, the political dissident under Soviet communist rule who later became president of Czechoslovakia, called parallel structures. These are organizations, businesses, institutions, or creative pursuits that exist physically within a totalitarian society, but morally outside of it. They are the oasis of freedom and sanity within a desert of totalitarianism. Havel notes in his book The Power of the Powerless that such structures are more effective at combating totalitarianism than political action. These parallel structures, he explains, offer an area where a different life can be lived, a life that aligns with its own goals. They represent society's efforts to rid itself of the self-sustaining aspects of totalitarianism, and thus to extract itself from its clutches. The task ahead of us, dear friends, is monumental. It demands action from as many of us as possible. The ruling elite do not sit around passively. They take deliberate steps to consolidate their power. We must counter this with an active, concerted effort to steer the world back toward freedom. This won't be easy, especially in a world teetering on the brink of totalitarianism. But as we face these challenges, let's remember the words of Thomas Paine. The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Totalitarianism, my friends, is like a storm. It looms ominously, threatening to engulf everything in its path. But storms, no matter how fierce, do eventually pass. And once they do, they leave behind a clear sky, a clean slate upon which we can rebuild. The task is arduous, but the reward, a world free from the chains of totalitarianism, is well worth the struggle. Together we can weather the storm and emerge stronger on the other side. Our triumph over tyranny awaits us. Let's press on. But as we press on, let's remember we are not merely extras in an epic superhero movie, waiting for a cape-clad savior to rescue us. No, my friends, each one of us holds within us the power of resistance, the avengers of our tale, if you will. We are the ordinary people with an extraordinary mission. With this spirit in mind, as we continue this vital discussion, let us ponder how to navigate the landscape in the face of such pervasive manipulation. It seems challenging, but remember this. The soul of society is composed of the souls of the individuals within it. Just as we aspire to create a healthier society, we must first aspire to heal and fortify our own minds. It's as the old saying goes, as within, so without. If we can establish order within ourselves, it will reflect in the world around us. Each one of us has a responsibility. We are the caretakers of our own minds, and it is our duty to protect and nurture them. In the face of propaganda, we must learn to question, to probe deeper, to not accept everything at face value. Like a ship's captain uses a compass to navigate treacherous waters, we must rely on our innate ability to reason and discern truth from deception. Moreover, it's imperative to remember that we are not alone in this endeavor. There is strength in numbers, and there is wisdom in collective action. Our shared experiences, our collective memories, and our communal resilience become our shield against the onslaught of totalitarian forces. There's also an interesting proposition here, which is the power of parallel societies. The concept might seem abstract, but its implementation can be rather tangible. Imagine educational structures based on open dialogues and critical thinking. Businesses driven by ethical practices rather than uncontrolled profiteering. Social platforms promoting unity instead of division. And artistic creations that inspire hope and provoke thought. These independent spheres, these parallel structures, existing within the rigid framework of a totalitarian society, can act as pockets of resistance and hope. They can help preserve the basic human spirit of individuality, creativity, and self-reliance. They become sanctuaries of free thought and human dignity within an otherwise oppressive reality. The road to preserving our freedoms and thwarting the shadow of totalitarianism is arduous, but it's a journey we must undertake. Let us remember that the triumph at the end of this struggle is glorious and worth every sacrifice. Let's strive to live our lives as beacons of hope and resilience, inspiring others, and ensuring our collective triumph over tyranny. We must face the storm and not only survive but thrive in its aftermath. Together, we can and will prevail. Our triumph, my friends, is not solely an external battle. It's an inner revolution that reminds me of the teachings of a visionary, Neville Goddard. Revered for his profound insights into the workings of the mind, Goddard taught us that we are the architects of our reality. His wisdom rings true especially now, as we find ourselves battling forces that seek to imprison not just our bodies, but our minds. Goddard proposed that through the power of imagination, we could shape our personal realities. He urged us to rise above the physical plane of existence and enter the realm of the imagination, where our thoughts could crystallize into reality. His message wasn't about combating outward forces, but about cultivating an inner realm so robust, so vibrant, that it alters the external world. So as we stride forth in our struggle against totalitarianism, let us also turn inwards, fortifying our minds and imaginations. In the grand chessboard of life, we are not mere pawns but kings and queens, capable of deciding our own fates. Consider the pertinence of this philosophy in our current context. Today we find ourselves locked in an inner war, pitted against forces that seek to manipulate our minds, to distort our realities. The teachings of Goddard provide us with a potent weapon, an empowered imagination, a liberated mind. While we resist the external manifestations of totalitarianism, let us also wage a relentless war within. Let's envision a reality of freedom, of rationality, of mutual respect. Remember, as Goddard taught us, our imagination is powerful. It can sow seeds of liberation even on the most tyrannical terrain. So let's weave intricate tapestries of freedom in our minds. Let's imagine societies that vibrate with creativity, curiosity, and independence. Let's imagine ourselves as untamed spirits, immune to propaganda, resistant to fear. Let's saturate our minds with visions of intellectual liberation until they seep into our realities. My dear friends, this is our call to action, our manifesto for mental freedom. Embrace your mind's power, unleash your imagination, envision the reality you desire, and in doing so, contribute to the collective resistance against totalitarianism. Bear in mind, this is no small task. It requires consistent effort, relentless courage, and unwavering belief in the strength of your mind. It is a path beset with challenges. But remember, every great journey begins with a single step. I invite you, I implore you, take that step today. Begin the journey of freeing your mind, of creating your reality. And as you embark on this voyage of intellectual liberation, remember, you're not alone. Together we shall prevail, for our minds are our mightiest bastions, our imaginations our most powerful arsenal. In the words of Neville Goddard, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. Do not try to change people. They are only messengers telling you who you are. Revalue yourself and they will confirm the change. So, let us revalue ourselves as free thinkers, as architects of our realities, as beacons of resistance against mental manipulation. In the firmament of our collective imagination, let us light up the stars of liberty, rationality, and resilience. This, dear friends, is our road to victory. Undoubtedly, the task at hand is monumental, the path ahead strewn with obstacles. But let us not forget, every challenge presents an opportunity to learn, to grow, to transcend. A challenge to our mental freedom is thus an invitation to claim our intellectual sovereignty, to reinstate our inherent right to think independently. The intellectual resistance we mount is not merely for us. It's for our children, our children's children, and the generations yet unborn. It's our pledge to safeguard the human spirit, the spirit that's fueled our progress from primordial caves to cosmic frontiers. Consider this: every idea that has ever reshaped the world, every invention that has made our lives easier, every piece of art that has moved our souls, emerged from the crucible of a free mind. And it is this very freedom we seek to preserve today. Neville Goddard exhorted us to reshape our world by reformulating our self-concept. In that spirit, let us redefine ourselves, not as passive recipients of propaganda, but as active wielders of our intellectual destinies. Let us refute the narrative of helplessness and embrace our agency. Visualize the change you seek, embody the freedom you desire. Be the embodiment of resistance against intellectual manipulation, an epitome of critical thinking, a beacon of enlightenment in the fog of misinformation. Harness your imagination to engineer a fortress of rationality, a sanctuary of unbiased thought, an incubator for free ideas. Remember, our collective consciousness is an almighty force. Each of us, contributing our unique threads to the grand tapestry of intellectual resistance, can catalyze profound change. Let us therefore inspire and influence one another positively, growing stronger together in our shared pursuit of mental freedom. As we journey towards intellectual liberation, remember, resistance is not a solitary pursuit. Reach out to those around you, your friends, your family, your community. Share your insights, engage in open dialogue, foster an environment that encourages critical thinking. Together we can turn the tide, break free from the shackles of manipulation, and rekindle the flame of intellectual freedom. I implore each one of you, don't just be spectators in this defining moment of our history. Be actors, be change makers. The stage is set, the world is watching. In this grand theater of life, let your performance reverberate with the power of free thought, echo with the whispers of resistance. Undoubtedly, the task at hand is monumental, the path ahead strewn with obstacles. But let us not forget, every challenge presents an opportunity to learn, to grow, to transcend. As we traverse this path, let's paint a vision of a future vibrant with the colors of intellectual freedom, a future where every mind is a lighthouse, illuminating the way towards truth, justice, and freedom. Our quest for mental freedom is thus an invitation to claim our intellectual sovereignty, to reinstate our inherent right to think independently. This, my friends, is our shared journey. Let's embark on it with courage, conviction, and an unshakable belief in the power of our minds. The intellectual resistance we mount is not merely for us, it's for our children, our children's children, and the generations yet unborn. It's our pledge to safeguard the human spirit, the spirit that's fueled our progress from primordial caves to cosmic frontiers. Consider this: every idea that has ever reshaped the world, every invention that has made our lives easier, every piece of art that has moved our souls, emerged from the crucible of a free mind, and it is this very freedom we seek to preserve today. Neville Goddard exhorted us to reshape our world by reformulating our self-concept. In that spirit, let us redefine ourselves, not as passive recipients of propaganda, but as active wielders of our intellectual destinies. Let us refute the narrative of helplessness and embrace our agency. Visualize the change you seek, embody the freedom you desire. Be the embodiment of resistance against intellectual manipulation, an epitome of critical thinking, a beacon of enlightenment in the fog of misinformation. Harness your imagination to engineer a fortress of rationality, a sanctuary of unbiased thought, an incubator for free ideas. Remember, our collective consciousness is an almighty force. Each of us, contributing our unique threads to the grand tapestry of intellectual resistance, can catalyze profound change. Let us therefore inspire and influence one another positively, growing stronger together in our shared pursuit of mental freedom. As we journey towards intellectual liberation, remember, resistance is not a solitary pursuit. Reach out to those around you, your friends, your family, your community. Share your insights. Engage in open dialogue. Foster an environment that encourages critical thinking. Together we can turn the tide, break free from the shackles of manipulation, and rekindle the flame of intellectual freedom. I implore each one of you, don't just be spectators in this defining moment of our history. Be actors, be change-makers. The stage is set. The world is watching. In this grand theater of life, let your performance reverberate with the power of free thought, echo with the whispers of resistance. This, my friends, is our shared journey. Let's embark on it with courage, conviction, and an unshakable belief in the power of our minds. As we traverse this path, let's paint a vision of a future vibrant with the colors of intellectual freedom. A future where every mind is a lighthouse, illuminating the way towards truth, justice, and freedom.